The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Plant City Planning Board for Wednesday, January 27th. There's an echo. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Board Member Wood,
Here.
Board Member Burris,
Here.
Board Member Carr,
Here.
Board Member Driggers, Board Member Driggers, Board Member Thurston,
Here.
Board Member Rodwell,
Here.
Board Member Jones.
Here. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a quorum. First item of business is approval of the minutes of our meeting of December 9th. They've been disseminated. Is there any changes or corrections to the minutes? I have a motion by Mr. Rodwell to approve the minutes. Is there a second? We have a second.
Me. Sorry, Jeremy.
Jeremy Burris. Mr. Burris seconded.
Audience.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you do the roll call for the approval of the minutes?
Board Member Wood,
Yes.
Board Member Burris,
Yes.
Board Member Carr,
Yes.
Board Member Thurston,
Yes.
Board Member Rodwell,
Yeah.
Board Member Jones.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion approved. Next item is public comments. At this meeting, anyone who wants to speak on any topic is welcome to come forward, as long as it's an item not on the current agenda and not an item that we're expecting to discuss within the next few months. So is there anyone who would like to make a public comment? I'll ask one more time. Anyone like to make a public comment? Okay, we'll close public comments. Thank you all for being here nevertheless. First item is a legislative public hearing. That's PB 2020-3032. Yeah. Pearl Street vacation. I never thought about that. When you vacate, you take a vacation.
I guess that's a good way to look at it.
But I know you're not on vacation. You're working hard all the time. So.
Good morning, board members. Robin Baker, Senior Planner with the Planning and Zoning Department. The first request before you this morning is P 2020-32, which is a vacation of a right-of-way for a portion of Pearl Street. The portion to be vacated is located between the CSX Railway and West Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. This is just east of Alexander Street to the backside of what we know as Paradise Fruit Industrial Development. The area of the vacation is 0.227 acres, and it's approximately 247 feet by 40 feet. This right-of-way was originally platted in 1924 and was just never improved. There were no objections received from reviewing agencies. And staff recommends that the planning board forward the vacate request to the city commission with a recommendation of approval. I'm here if you have any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, I just simple, what will happen to the property now, basically? Or moving forward, anything different or?
I'll let the applicant answer that question. We have entertained the current owner in a DRC application where I think it's going to be converted to storage units, but we'll let the applicant
Yes, ma'am.
inform you
Thank
more
you so
on that.
much.
Would the applicant like to speak? If you come forward, give us your name and address for the record.
Good morning. My name is Bryce Penson with Half Associates, 1000 North Ashley Drive, Suite 900. I am representing the applicant. The applicant is proposing a truck court expansion adjacent to the existing building, which is Paradise Fruit. The city-owned right-of-way is currently dividing the site where the expansion is being proposed, and the right-of-way vacation is being requested for this purpose. I'm here if you have any other questions.
I guess the mask kind of muffled you. Could tell me again what the purpose, how it's going to be used?
Yes, it's for a truck court expansion.
Okay.
Truck court?
Yes.
Okay.
So the use isn't being changed. It's still gonna be gravel.
Okay.
but-
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Any questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any citizen input, public comment on this item, this agenda item? Okay. Staff, do you want to add anything more? No?
So there's a little confusion as to what that means. Basically, the way that the trucks have to back in there now, they would have to back in off the road. By them vacating that right of way because they own the property on both sides of that right of way, it allows them to have more room to be able to pull those trucks in and then back into the building up to the, the loading dock or whatever, rather than having to back off the street.
I understood it's like a parking lot, basically, so
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. What's the pleasure of the board? Any discussion? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval, finding discussed with the comprehensive plan.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Carr. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to say Mr. Thurston provided the second. Any discussion of the motion? I'll call for a vote. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll on this motion, please?
Board Member Wood,
Yes.
Board Member Burris,
Yes.
Board Member Carr,
Yes.
Board Member Thurston,
Yes.
Board Member Rodwell,
Yes.
Board Member Jones,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Next item is a group of topics under quasi judicial public hearings. This will require a swearing in of anyone who will be speaking on these topics. So, Madam Clerk, are you prepared to administer
yes.
the oath? If you would please, anyone who's going to be speaking on any of these topics, and I think there's 5 of them, would you please stand and raise your right hand and take the oath?
Okay, do you swear or affirm that testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First item is PB 2020-21, County Line Farms PD, major modification, request for modification. Ms. Baker?
Good morning again. Robin Baker, Senior Planner, Planning and Zoning, and I have been sworn in. This is your first case where you're seeing the changes to our PD code where we're calling these major modifications or minor modifications. So your first request is a major modification to the County Line Farms PD, application number PB 2020-21. The site is located on the west side of County Line Road, north of Rice Road and south of US Highway 92. Has a future land use designation of residential 4, residential 12, commercial, and industrial. The existing zoning on the property is planned development district with a portion of the property being within the I-4 Tech Corridor Overlay District. The project was originally approved in 2004 and is currently approved for a mixed-use project approved for 2.3 million square feet of industrial uses, 120,000 square feet of commercial uses, 800 multifamily residential units, and 200 single-family residential units. Is my guy working? So we'll do like we do with all the changes to PDs. I'll walk you through each of the changes individually so you know everything that's changing about the PD. The first is to change the name. The applicant proposes to change the name of the project from County Line Farms Community Unit District to County Line Farms Plan Development District in order to comply with section 102-454 of the Plant City Code of Ordinances. The second is to remove all proposed residential from the project. The applicant has removed any request for residential units from the site plan, and they've indicated that on their site development table. To expand the industrial uses into other areas of the site that were previously planned for residential and increase the potential industrial square footage to 2.9 million square feet. So all of the areas that used to be slated for residential will now have the potential to be developed as industrial. And what allows them to do this, even though that portion of the project has a residential 12 future land use category, is that I-4 Tech Corridor Overlay District that allows them to do industrial uses despite what the future land use is. The fourth request is to increase the potential commercial to 135,700 square feet while relocating the 2 commercial out parcels. So the graphic you have on the left side there shows the original or the currently approved plan, and you see those 2 little areas at the 2 access points is where they proposed having support commercial uses. Now they've kind of expanded those where out parcel 1 is up on County Line Road at one of the main entrances, and out parcel 2 is within the project. Now, the only caveat about out parcel 2 is because it is not in a commercial land use district. Okay, the other out parcel is within the commercial land use district, so they can do more commercial uses. Whereas out parcel 2, because it's part of an industrial development, it has to only serve the industrial development. So it's limited to what we call convenience commercial uses. That's all that can be developed on out parcel 2. And they have added a note to the site plan to govern that.
Question.
Yes, sir.
The depiction there, is it surrounded by wetlands and a retention pond, parcel 2? Is that what that hatching and?
Correct.
That little
I don't
thing.
know if the hatching is actual wetlands or if it's the stormwater ponds. It's hard for me to see here, but
Okay.
but it will be water.
But that's the only development on that little piece to the right there.
Correct. It looks like there's a pond
That's what-
directly beneath it, which is the
Correct.
outlined that's not shaded, and then the hatched marks are the actual wetlands.
That's what I assumed. I wanted to be sure. Thank you.
The next request is to increase the stormwater acreage from 80 acres to 192 acres. So they're showing a large increase in stormwater areas to accommodate the additional entitlements on the site. I wanted to point out, the I-4 Tech Corridor overlay does not cover the entire property, okay? So there's a portion here in the back that has a land use category of R4. And what we've basically had them do is to add a note on the plan that nothing in that area can be industrial related. If that portion of the property is ever developed, it would have to be a residential use that's allowed under the R4 land use category. But I wanted to show you this graphic here. Obviously, there are a lot of residents that back up to this property off of South Wiggins Road. And I just wanted to show you that according to the site plan, on the south end, there's more than 470 feet between those houses and any potential development. And to the north, it's almost 1,200 feet from the back of those houses to the next development. But that's, not even part of this development. It's existing industrial. So those folks there won't be affected at all. There's only really a small portion of that based on the site plan that they're proposing that could even be developed with houses. And it's within that R4 category, kind of between those 2 labels that I have there for you. And I just wanted to show you that graphic here. So you see the graphic that popped up on the right-hand side, that's the actual site plan. So you can see that there's only one little area there that could actually be developed, and that area has access to South Wiggins Road. They're not proposing access at this time, but because of the way the property is shaped, if they ever did develop residential there, it would, have the potential to access off of South Wiggins Road.
And that would be, just to make sure I understand where, that would be toward the south of the map or toward make sure I'm.
It's almost dead center, but
Is that what, okay, I see it right there.
yeah, so all the area to the north is mostly wetland and stormwater. And then you've got that open space in between. And then to the south where you border the other residential units, there's a large stormwater pond and an extension of that wetland
It should
there.
be just above that 470-foot line, a little bit above that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
The applicant did answer, we had a call from the gentleman that owns the property to the south. He has a residential subdivision there, and he asked that they provide extra buffering and screening against his property. And so the applicant has committed to do an enhanced buffer there along his property. They're proposing a 20-foot buffer with a 6-foot high continuous hedge there on that side to help protect that gentleman that lives there. We did receive an email from other residents that are on Kirkland Road. Unfortunately, we didn't receive that until after all of this was prepared, and hopefully they're here to speak to you today about their concerns. All that said, staff recommends that the planning board find the major modification to the County Line Farms Plan Development District consistent with Article 4, Division 9 of Chapter 102, zoning of the Plant City Code of Ordinances and the Imagine 2040 Plant City Comprehensive Plan, and for it to be forwarded to the City Commission with a recommendation of approval. I'm here if you have any questions.
Robin, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So while this particular modification would eliminate all of the residential, the that chunk there, the R4 area would remain undeveloped, or it is part of the site plan today?
Per the site plan that they've submitted, it will not be developed.
Okay.
Okay. We just had them put a note on the plan to just verify the fact that the I-4 corridor does not cover that area.
Mm-hmm.
So if they ever were to develop it, the only option they would have would be residential units. That's it.
And that would come back.
They would have to come back
because
they're
we'd be
not
adding it
showing
back. Okay.
currently, correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a little confusing. So
And that would be, Robin, just make sure that'd be part of the 800, no more than 800 multifamily. I'm with that, leaving that.
No, that's
They could
off
do
the
that.
table.
That's on the table. Do you know how many units that would leave them?
It would basically just, they would be allowed to have 4 units to
Or
the
that acreage? Okay.
I don't have an exact acreage of that little pod there.
Yes,
The applicant may be able to answer that
Okay.
question.
Thank you.
any other questions for staff? Thank you. Thank you, Robin. Is the applicant present? If you please give us your name and address and state that you've been sworn in.
Morning, Jason Lewis, Kinley Horn Associates, 116 South Kentucky Avenue, Lakeland, Florida, and I have been sworn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Staff did a great job as far as explaining the project. As I mentioned, we do have an increase in the warehouse industrial use on the property, roughly about 26%. We are limiting the residential. 200 units as a single family, 800 units as a multifamily. We do have a slight increase in the commercial retail for the property, roughly about 13%. And then the stormwater open spaces, we're actually greatly increasing the acreage associated with that. It answered the question while ago on the hatching area. All the hatching that's shown on the site plan, that is wetland, that's existing wetlands that we're preserving and or creating. Those will be put into a wetland easement, conservation easement as well. So the wetlands that you see will be preserved. And then the acreage associated with the stormwater, that also includes the wetlands and the creation area as well as stormwater. And then we have 89 acres of open space roughly. I also forgot to mention, we also have Kate Bader with Kinley Horn as well, and Wesley Beck, who's the applicant with County Line Farms Holdings. Our access to the property is off the County Line Road. It's being reviewed by Polk County, and also associated with that, we've got a signal that we're proposing to put in on our roadways access to the site. See, staff mentioned the enhanced buffer that we're proposing on the south side of the property. And with that, you know, that's basically what I have. More than happy to answer any questions that you have.
You've already done the wetlands delineation survey, so that's firm. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, thank
We've
you.
gone through EPC as well as water management.
Okay.
What, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but just for giggles, all that vacant property, you got cows on it, just gonna mow it, and you park one day, like, what do you think will happen that long term? Is this gonna be?
Is this the area to the north of your?
Yes.
About
You know, what the place was gonna be R4, that now will probably be nothing in the immediate future, but it's kind of, what do you think will happen there?
Really, we don't have any plans for it.
Okay.
Really hasn't been much discussion at all. About
Okay.
that area.
It's just green space, basically. Okay.
Is it in fact level ground that could be mowed, or is it forested
And
trees?
it's mostly, there is a decent amount of it that's forested, but it was part of it that's wetland area. We do have some stormwater in that area for the development, but it's a little bit of mixture of stormwater, forested, existing wetlands that have been preserved. But part of it could be made as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here. We now have the opportunity for public comment. This is a virtual meeting. I assume no one's called in on this item. Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay, thank you. So is there anyone here in the audience that would like to make a comment or something? Yes, sir. You'll be recognized. Just take your time. If you would, when you come up, give us your name and address and state that you've been sworn in.
It's Christmas and I'm doing good. I'm going.
Good.
I'm gonna die out. You know what? I'm alive.
That's,
We decided.
you know,
Property. We're gonna pull right here in front of the high school.
some days it's just good to be seen.
That's it. That's where it is.
But I need your name and address and for the record that you've been sworn in.
This is my wife, Molly Phillips.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm James or Mike Phillips. Mike and Molly, we've been knowing our Texas for 50 years. We have issues with the whole situation.
And give me your name and address and state for the record.
Lindsay
Mhm.
is, which is the owner just south of the property proposing to change.
And you have been sworn in. You have been
Yes, I
sworn
have
in.
been sworn in.
Thank you, sir. Please proceed.
All right, we have issues with these situations. If you just start showing the pictures, you get an idea of what we're running into with the water issues. In 2004, when this was initially brought up as County Line Farms, Gemini Survey Company came through there, and I questioned it, and I did get a whole set of papers that showed where the wetlands were. There were 100 wetlands in this issue at that time, and it was shut down because of those same issues. Today, we still have the same issues. We actually have more of these. I gotta take this thing off.
No, you can take it off, sir.
I'm retired CSX Railroad
All right.
Engineering Department. You know what? These things don't work too good.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, these water issues are still here. He's talking about the 400 acres and the 475 feet that is away from the houses. Well, a lot of that is still swamp. They call it, regular watershed, but it's a swamp. And these water issues that she's showing you right now are the issues after every rain. Now, we're not talking about a heavy rain. We're talking about every rain that goes through there. Just the bridge, there's a bridge after 18 hours that we finally get to go over. I built a bridge, which is concrete bottom, 16-inch river beams underneath. But we still have issues getting in and out because the water that is not being kept on their property. What happens, they say they're gonna have 5 large ponds to take care of that. Well, it's not working. Like I said, I'm BMOW for the railroad engineering department. Water doesn't flow uphill and water doesn't stay on your property if you have too much of it. And when you're talking about 2.9 or 3 million square feet of roof space on these utility buildings, these buildings, storage buildings, it won't work. We know 7.1 cubes on that. When you figure it out with your little calculators, you figured out all that water. We're talking a lot, millions of gallons coming off that property. Now that's an increase compared to what they initially started to talk about. But right now we're seeing inundation of water. And we have a nice home out there. I don't know if anybody's ever been out there. We have a cypress log home.
You're out of time, but so if you would give us a wrap up, please.
What we're trying to do is the issue is water. We need to have we look at this, at what's going on with the water. We did not intend to leave or move, but we had been offered to buy out at one point. Then they rescinded the offer. Well, I was in ICU laying on my back when the phone call came through. They had offered before, and then they rescinded the offer to purchase my property.
Is they the people that own the property?
Yeah, yes.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Well, that would be Blue Thunder.
Well, that's okay. Just, you need to conclude, sir.
All right, long story short, is that we have to have this issue relooked at. They're saying so much water comes off and that those 5 ponds that are under elevation are gonna be able to take that water. There's no way possible. There's no way. It
Okay.
can't happen.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming here and taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your help, man.
That's up here with it.
I agree.
Thank you.
We're still open for public comment. Yes, sir. Come forward and give us your name and address and state that you've been sworn in. You can remove your mask. Thank you,
My
sir.
name is Craig Schlegel. I live at 324 South Wiggins Road. I have been sworn in.
Thank you, Mr. Schlegel.
I just had a couple questions and basically following up on his. Since they started this project, I live on the very north end.
North End. Okay.
We have plenty, there's no building being built there, but we have a big bay head. And right up to the property, they are now doing what they call a mitigation area. All around there, which is they're scooping it out and it's going to be basically a shallow pond. Are they gonna, is this company, once this is all said and done with all this water, we had a terrible mosquito problem before. Are they gonna do anything to contain the mosquitoes? Are they gonna treat this, these wetlands that they're developing, that is gonna be pouring water that never did? And if they are gonna treat it, is it gonna be with something that's not going to affect our wetlands? That's basically all I wanted to know. It doesn't look like they're doing much on our end. It's on the south end is where it is. But the water is a concern. We have more water there now than it's all wet back there. It's never been wet before. I've lived there for almost 40 years. But since they started pumping the groundwater for their ponds, everything's flooded. So.
That's on the north side, sir?
No, that's, yeah, on the north side.
Okay, thank you.
But that's basically it.
Thank you, sir.
You don't know what they're gonna do as far as keeping the insects down, if they're gonna treat, are they gonna treat something that, with something that's not gonna affect our water.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Schlegel.
You need all of it, and our well.
Thank you, sir. There's still an opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone else that would like to say something on this? Anyone? Yes, sir. Well, I'm going to recognize you formally, but just make sure there's no more public comment. Yeah. Any other public comment? Okay, that closes public comment. Sir, would you come forward and give us your thoughts on this?
Thank you. Hey, Jason Lewis, Warren Associates. The concern about the stormwater ponds, today there are no stormwater ponds out there. We're going to be putting in, it's actually approximately 10 stormwater ponds. As part of the permitting process, we'll have to go through Water Management District, as well as City of Plant City, and then also through FEMA. We'll have to do with detailed flood study associated with the site, and we'll have to go through FEMA to get the approvals to them as well. But there won't be any increase in stormwater that is out there today versus what goes downstream. We'll have to do a pre-post match as part of the permitting process. And then in reference to the wetland, it's actually wetland creation that we're preparing. It's going to be a natural feature that runs in land, be a conservation easement that's also going to put over. But we're creating wetlands on that north area. Which it's intended to stay wet, but it's a natural area that has wetland vegetation and whatnot, so that's the area that's going on.
What about their concerns about wells, sir?
Wells?
Yeah, is there anything could their wells be in any way be contaminated by what you're doing or proposing to do?
No, sir, the areas that we're creating it's wetland creation, so it's a natural habitat, natural vegetation that'll be for that area, so there wouldn't be any issues there.
Okay, any questions for the applicant?
Thank you again.
Thank you, sir. Staff, do you have any additional comments you'd like to make? Okay, what's the pleasure of the board? Let's discuss it for a while.
I got a question, Art.
Yes, sir, go ahead. Recognize Mr. Burris.
I guess my thought process is, and I'm kind of looking at Robin as I'm speaking, I'm always concerned about water runoff. If we always see these situations where a developer comes in, everything looks great, and 5 years later, everybody's wet. I guess, how can we be absolutely confident that our city engineer in Swift Mud won't have water pushed out on these people? Because I'm familiar with that area, it is wet, and I just don't want to make the situation worse, perhaps make it better, but just how can we be as a board absolutely confident the neighbors around will not be flooded? That's one of the questions I have as a board. Art?
Yes, sir.
One of my concerns.
Appreciate that. That's something that comes up often in these kind of issues, so, yeah.
And we've discussed previously, obviously after this process, actually, this is a unique situation because a portion of this project has already gone through site plan review. It's been going concurrently because these major modifications that they're making to this PD are to the areas that aren't the industrial that was already approved there. And so it's allowed them to move forward with the industrial building that's going up on County Line Road, which I think we're all familiar with as the Ace Hardware Distribution Center. And so they've already gone through site plan review on that. So engineering, planning, utilities, everyone has already looked at that site plan and what they're proposing as far as, what's going to be required for stormwater and that kind of thing. And all the departments have approved it. And to my knowledge, they've also already received their CLOMAR, which is something they have to do through Swift Mud. So all of those outside agencies, you can be assured that they all have to look at it.
Yes,
and in this case, it's going to be on multiple levels because now they've come in with the first building. As they do the other buildings, they're going to have to go through the same process again to make sure that every square foot they add to the property is being accommodated by the stormwater ponds that are, on site, that they can contain everything they create.
Okay, thank you, Robin.
I think that kind of answered my question, but I just want to clarify. So with the additional, 600,000 of industrial square footage, that doesn't necessarily trigger additional review, but as they add buildings, that would trigger review upon each building that would go up.
Correct.
Okay.
If they had come in with the whole complex at once, we would have looked at everything.
Right.
But at this time, they've only come in with the one building on County Line. It'll have a future expansion, and again, even with the future expansion of the existing building, they're going to have to go through the same process again. So there's multiple levels of review that they'll have to go through every time they do something new to the property.
Okay. Yes, ma'am?
I just want to say, we had a subdivision that was approved through Swift Mud and the city, and as it was being finalized, things weren't working right. So Swift Mud was involved in getting that. So there are checks that if something's not working right, there are follow-ups and stuff like that. So I just wanted to mention that we have had that coordination in the past.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and my next concern, Art, and I know he addressed it, is none of those people out there probably have city water, right?
I'm assuming by the reference to wells that.
Yeah. So, it's not just really pest control that bothers me. It's oil runoff from these tractors and trucks getting these people's wells. So my other question I think we ought to be addressing is if there's any runoff, it's not just water runoff, but if these people have wells out there they're drinking from, and they don't have city water, could their shallow water well systems potentially be negatively affected by oil runoff, diesel runoff, that type of thing? That's something I didn't really even think about this when we brought that to my attention. So as we're looking at these things, as a city, having a thought process around that also.
That question may be a little bit above my pay.
I know, and you might have to answer that today,
Yes, and I think in general, from a planning standpoint, our land uses are set up in such a way to help protect things like that. Now, obviously within the city, every single property is required to connect to water and sewer. So, there are some exceptions, but it's not really an issue that we deal with within the city limits, but obviously we're bordered by other properties. I can't answer your question fully as to what happens, those trucks, but it's, that's pervious or impervious area if and when oil leaked from a truck, it's on a concrete parking lot, not so much that they're parked out in the grass and oil is leaking onto the ground and then, permeating the wells that way.
My thought is it's going to go from the asphalt. It's going to rain, take it to one of these little estuaries or retention areas, and then perhaps water's going to flow underground and above ground, one direction or another. So this is the first time I really thought about that. I'm wondering, my goodness, could we have a negative impact on a well water system if we're gonna have such a large parking infrastructure? No, we have it. That's all. Maybe this is a question to ask Swift Mud. We don't have to, just a thought that I had. That's all.
It could be potentially a question for the applicant as well. They
Yes,
are
ma'am.
engineering firms, so they may be able to answer your question as to how those stormwater ponds work.
Yes, ma'am.
I think in general, though, when you think about big cases that have happened where wells were poisoned and those kind of things, it's because people were dumping into the stormwater
Right.
ponds, and then that caused a
Correct.
problem. You know what I mean?
Yes, ma'am.
So, but they could potentially answer that question.
Thanks, Robin.
Well, this wouldn't be our first large rooftop either.
No,
So
and
we must have some history on these sort of incidents. Yes, sir, would you come forward for a comment?
Yes. Again, Jason Lewis, Good Morning Associates, in reference to the stormwater oil, as part of our design, there's a lot of regulations that we have to design by. The from the site itself, the impervious area that drains into our stormwater system, that stormwater system is designed to treat and attenuate stormwater prior to discharging off-site. And there are additional regulations that we have to design by, which are DEP regulations, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. There are certain distances that we have to be away from well for our stormwater system. So there's a lot of regulations that are in place that we have to design the system by in order to prevent this type of issue.
Okay, so your analysis that you're just referring to will locate citizens' wells in the area?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. There's some businesses that we've gone through that check as far
Okay.
as
Okay,
if we don't have these specific locations, because a lot of times those wells are located off-site, we design our system such that we're at least away from the property line, if you will, to accommodate that.
yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
right, any discussion, further discussion, board members?
No, that was a good question. I didn't know any of that. That was good to learn.
Every meeting can be a learning experience. Sir, I'm not unable to recognize you at this time.
I thought we had a 30-foot setback on all environmental,
Okay,
and then our creeks.
okay, thank you.
Putting track of them in there, dig it out and let the water come out further.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any further discussion by the board members? What's the pleasure of the board? Who's gonna stick their neck out?
I'll make a motion, Art, just understanding that, a lot of the folks we rely on to mitigate the concerns of the citizens are already involved and will continue to be involved. I'm willing to make a motion to approve PB 2020-21, finding consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thurston. So we have a motion by Mr. Thurston. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Jones. Any further discussion of the motion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Board Member Wood,
Yes.
Board Member Burris,
Yes.
Board Member Carr,
Yes.
Board Member Driggers,
Yes.
Board Member Thurston,
Yes.
Board Member Rodwell,
Yes.
Board Member Jones.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you all for your participation. It's greatly appreciated. Next item is PB 20-27, Baycare Hospital Plan Development Rezoning. Yeah.
You can't even.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, board members. Again, Robin Baker, Senior Planner, Planning and Zoning, and I have been sworn in. Sorry. Just wait for the PowerPoint to come up. There we go.
Okay.
Next case before you is PB 2020-27, which is a plan development rezoning for the Baycare Hospital. The site is located in the southeast corner of East Sam Allen Road and North Park Road. It's approximately 50.74 acres in size, has a future land use designation of commercial and Hillsborough County's residential 1, and has a current zoning of C1A in Hillsborough County Agriculture Rural, which allows 1 unit per 5 acres. And they're asking to rezone to a planned development district, which will be referred to as the Baycare Hospital Plan Development. The applicant proposes a hospital development with support commercial, office, a helipad, and medical uses not to exceed 773,582 square feet. The uses on site shall be limited to the following. Now, I'm not going to read all of those, but essentially they're, medical office, pharmacies, convenience, commercial type with cafes, luncheonettes, that sort of thing to support the hospital use on site. This is an overall look at the site plan that was submitted. And here's a little closer look at the actual developed portion of the site. As you'll see, they have the hospital located sort of in the middle of the property to provide some larger setbacks, which we'll get to in just a second.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Any land designated for future development, maybe who knows when? Or is this a lockdown to that building?
As far as the hospital is concerned, and I'll let the applicant answer that further when it's their time to come up.
Sure.
But as you can see on the plan, they've even laid out the parking areas here.
So I don't see any, I don't see any
As
layout.
far as the hospital is concerned, I don't know that there's much room to expand there.
Okay.
Now, they are showing an out parcel that doesn't give any exact definition as to what's going to go in that out parcel, other than the fact that it's limited to those uses.
Okay.
But that would be developed in the future, or that's
Okay.
the only thing we don't know exactly what's going to go there yet.
Okay, thank you.
So a portion of the property was recently annexed into the city and is currently undergoing a land use change from Hillsborough County agricultural rural to commercial. The request is expected to be heard by the city commission in February. Now, again, we talked about our most recent update to our PD code requires anytime you're asking for something that goes against what the code states is allowed, that they are allowed to ask for what's called a specific approval. And this particular project has asked for a specific approval for the maximum height to be as high as 110 feet, but that will be limited to the shaded area that's shown on the plan here. The rest of the hospital will be the 75 feet that is allowed for the hospital use in this area. So to mitigate the additional height of the hospital building, the applicant is committing to a 300-foot setback for the portion of the hospital that's requested to be 110 feet, and then a 200-foot setback for the portion proposed to be 75 feet. Development of the out parcel will be limited to a maximum height of 65 feet. And that just comes with the normal allowance in a PD under a commercial use is allowed to be up to 65 feet high.
Can I ask you a question, Rob?
Yes, sir.
Can you go back to the map of the big one of the hospital? So really, in theory, there's still nothing within probably 300 feet of that anyways, almost, correct? At the highest point. I mean, I don't think there's anything around there anyways, correct? I mean, we got a road on one side and two sides, so that's almost.
We do have some, whether there's anything existing there or not.
Yes, ma'am.
There are some properties to the south and to the east that
Okay.
are designated for residential.
Okay.
So they could potentially develop as residential. And so the applicant was just proposing that, additional setback to
Okay.
help mitigate those folks and,
Yes.
keeping it internal to the site.
Okay.
So the developer will be responsible for extending utilities to the site, and the city does have capacity to serve the proposed development. As far as environmental, there are wetlands on site determined by the EPC, and impacts to the wetlands are shown on the site plan. That's the little green highlighted areas there. The developer will be required to secure approval for the impacts prior to development. There is a utility easement on site that comes from one of the accesses. It's a TICO easement. It goes into the property. But we did receive a statement from TICO that they would support the vacation of the existing TICO easement on site and would work with the applicant for potential relocation if necessary. A transportation study was done on the property, and it was determined that there are several turn lanes that will be required for the project. So at Access A, they'll have both a northbound and southbound turn lane. Access B, they're going to have just a left northbound turn lane. St. Allen Road, Access C, 285 feet of left westbound turn lane and a right eastbound turn lane as well. And then at Access D, there was no improvements required there. There were other mentions in the transportation study that some of the timing of the lights at Park Road and I-4 and at Park Road and US Highway 92 should be adjusted to accommodate the extra traffic, and in that it would operate at an acceptable level of service. Obviously, all of these improvements are This is a county road, so it'll be at the mercy of the county of whether or not they approve those improvements. With all of this, staff recommends the rezoning request from C1A Commercial District to Baycare Hospital Plan Development District, PB 2020-27, be found consistent with Article 4, Division 8 of Chapter 102 of the Plant City Code of Ordinances and the Imagine 2040 Plant City Comprehensive Plan, and for it to be forwarded to the City Commission with a recommendation of approval. And I'm here if you have any questions.
Any questions, Ms. Baker?
This is Bonnie Carr, question. And I'm just curious, on that out partial piece, is there any land condition like wetland that, might identify why that's carved out? Or I think I heard you mention, they haven't really identified it. I'm just curious if the land would limit anything happening there, any wetlands or anything.
So if you can see this graphic that I have up here now, you'll see that to the east of that out parcel, there is an area there where they would need to impact the wetland to be able to have the full out parcel. And then to the north there of the out parcel, there is a wetlands setback line there that they wouldn't be able to develop in. But other than that, it seems to be, dry land that they could develop on there.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Robin, you mentioned that those are county roads, that the city can't make the turns and all that. I would assume at this point, the county knows what's going on and their intentions are to create turn lanes and whatnot for traffic flow. Is that?
Yes, we do ask our traffic consultants that complete the transportation studies to coordinate with Hillsborough County.
Okay.
So that we don't have any surprises, because
Yes,
really what's the point of putting the conditions on the plan?
Right.
It's going to turn out that they can't. We did have a meeting with Hillsborough County and the applicant for a different project that, affects the same roadway. And as a result of that, the Baycare applicant is relocating the curb cut from what is now at the middle of their property. They're relocating it to the south in order to line up with another project, and that was at the request of Hillsborough County and other agencies. So we definitely have been working with Hillsborough County in that aspect.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Mr. Burris. Any other questions for staff? Thank you. Would the applicant wish to speak? Please give us your name and address and state for the record that you've been sworn in.
Good morning. Elise Batzel with Stearns Weaver Miller, 401 East Jackson Street, Suite 2100. I'm here on behalf of South Florida Baptist Hospital. Also with me this morning is Karen Kerr, the president, and Tony Kanuski, who is head of the construction team working on this particular site, in case there's some operational questions or construction questions that you have as well.
And you have been sworn in?
I have been sworn. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to skip over the location because Robin has already covered that. Again, the request is to rezone a portion of the property from C1, which is in the city, to PD, and the other portion of the property, I'll show you on a map shortly, from County AR to PD as well. This just shows it a little clearer. We have the ability of a bunch of pretty fancy maps, which might help you understand the site a little bit better. So the area in light purple is currently C1 in the city. And the area in lighter green to the east is property that was annexed in and now will come before. You've seen this as a comprehensive plan, and both of those will go, this PD and the comprehensive plan, to City Commission, assuming that you recommend approval at the end of February. So the proposed zoning would look like this. As you can see to the north, you have the approved North Park Isles. That's generally where the location is. North Park Isles community. Across the street, there's the multifamily PD. One of the interesting things is you see that little piece of property that's across the street. That's a piece of property that isn't going to be used as any active development by the hospital. It's going to be some kind of passive development, green space, perhaps stormwater retention.
State.
Yes, sir.
What little piece did you just refer to?
So if you look, there's no pointer here, but if you look directly across Park Road, there's a little piece that's
that little rectangle.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought you meant. I just wanted to make sure.
That's part of the property owned by the seller, so it all came, you know, as one collective deal.
So you're going to own it, but,
Yes, sir.
okay. Thank you.
Of course. What's interesting about this property
I
with
just wanted to make
respect
sure we had
to
it.
your comprehensive plan and your vision plans is that it is in the Northeast Plant City overlay, and it's also at the northern end of this activity center. So while there's nothing, you know, particularly going on out there right now, there's a lot coming to that area, a lot that you've approved, and in your vision plan, this is an area that will be a commercial activity center. Our renderings make it a little bit easier for you to see and understand the project. I'm going to zoom in just a moment. Again, this will be a new medical facility, including the hospital, an emergency room, and medical office. You see here, there's an out parcel. That out parcel is right now just extra land for the hospital. And so it will be a commercial out parcel with a number of permitted uses for future development in the future. As you can see here, the area in lighter red is the small area towards the center of the property that's going to be 6 feet in height. Baycare actually went and reoriented the building after we saw it during the comprehensive plan, because we realized that, number one, it would provide better access and circulation for the site and for ambulances, but it also provides additional buffers and protections from the residential properties that are around them based on this reorientation. As you can see, there are 2 stormwater ponds that will take on all of the water for the site. They will be they will attenuate the water and store the water on site in the location of those 2 ponds. And to the north, you can see existing wetlands. While this existing wetland will remain largely on site, there's just a small portion that will be impacted primarily because the access road needs to come through that area. Of course, we'll work with all of our local governmental agencies to get the proper approvals for that wetland impact. One thing I think is helpful with this visual that'll help you understand the protections that we've put in place for the site. If you look at the very dark blue line, I'm sorry, I don't remember who asked, but someone asked about future expansion. There is flexibility built in here in case we need future expansion for the hospital in the future. So you can see that the dark blue line is this 200-foot minimum setback. And then the 300-foot minimum setback is for any areas that may in the future include towers and the 110 feet. While that isn't planned at this time, you know, we wanted to make sure that there was flexibility for the hospital to be able to build and grow at this location. At the same time, we wanted to ensure through site design elements that we really protected all the areas around us. So we've really tried to do that. You can also see the area to the east and to the southern boundary. We've added in a voluntary enhanced 15-foot buffer just for a little extra protection from those properties that may directly be adjacent to those boundaries. Do you have any questions while I'm on this slide before I advance? So from a compatibility standpoint, of course, your planning staff has said that it's compatible. We have created a design that we believe is very sensitive to the surrounding uses. The project access on Park Road, as Robin mentioned, is designed to align with the new multifamily development that's going to the west. That way, that traffic circulation is really efficient and functional. There is no vertical development on that small piece directly across Park Avenue to the west. We have provided internal circulation, which does provide access to the future out parcels, so that there is some internal capture there between maybe future uses on the out parcel and the hospital, and it will function very efficiently. From a comprehensive plan consistency policy perspective, it is near the I-4 interchange. Park Road, as I mentioned, is considered a commercial activity center. There's direct access to Sam Allen Road, which is planned as a 4-lane extension. There's direct access to Park Road, and it's actually less than 1/3 of a mile from the I-4 interchange, which just makes it a prime location for this facility. We also hope that this proposed project provides excellent employment opportunities, not just for, you know, existing hospital employees, but for people that may move into that area. Oops, sorry, let me go back. And this is just a rendering. You've seen this once before, but a rendering of the whole campus. And while this rendering was for the north-south orientation, the building is still functionally going to look exactly like it does now. As you can see, you know, we are very excited about this opportunity. We think it's going to be a really great project. Karen and Tony and I are all here to answer any questions that you have, and we're very excited to be before you finally with this final step. And we would request recommendation of approval respectfully. Thank you very much for your time.
Any questions for the applicant?
More of just a comment, because the question came up about expansion.
Yes.
I would imagine that this is being built to serve not only today, but also probably into the future as it's being built. I mean, that's kind of probably part of the reason to make the move, is to serve not only the current need, but and know there's more coming. Is that fair to say?
My answer to that is yes, but I'll let Karen ask that question. She's obviously the expert.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff's attorney? For the applicant's attorney on that? No? Thank you. Would you come forward, give us your name, address, and state that for the record you've been sworn in?
Karen Kerr, 3103 City, Florida, and I have been sworn in. Yes, when we were developing this plan, we looked with our planners in a 10-year plan and looking at what our bed needs would be. Part of it's a 150 bed facility, which is comparable to what we have now. The difference being they're all private rooms, so it gives us ability to expand. Coupled with the fact that we do have 30 beds built in on the 6th floor that will be shelved in, so that we can expand easily to 180 beds.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Kerr? No? Does that conclude the applicant's remarks?
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time today.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Open now for citizen comments. If there's anyone from the public that wishes to comment on this request. I'll ask one more time. Any requests from the public? Okay, that closes the public comment. Any further comments the staff wishes to add to our discussion? Okay. Okay, thank you. Board, any discussion?
I think that's great. Well thought out. Yeah, I just got one comment. I think the hospital is the largest employer in our city, and I think we definitely need to sort of help them keep all those jobs in Plant City and all that trained staff. So I think this is a really good fit for our community, and I'm just thankful they chose to stay in Plant City with this new endeavor because, again, being the largest employer in Plant City, I think we definitely got to consider that as we move forward.
Yeah, I'd just like to share Jeremy's comments. I'm very pleased to see the expansion in Plant City. I think they've been a very strong and supportive institution in the city, and I'm glad to see expansion of that.
Thank you, Ms. Carr. Any further comments or remarks or questions? Okay, what's the pleasure of the board? Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to recommend approval of PB 2020-27, Baycare Hospital Plan Development District, finding consistent with the Imagine 2040, the Plant City Comprehensive Plan.
I second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Jones and a second by Ms. Carr. Any discussion of the motion? Madam Clerk, call for the vote.
Board Member Wood,
Yes.
Board Member Burris,
Yes.
Board Member Carr,
Yes.
Board Member Driggers,
Yes.
Board Member Thurston,
Yes.
Board Member Rodwell,
Yes.
Board Member Jones.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, 7-0, congratulations. You think that's the last time we'll see you, you think? You said something like that. Yeah. Oh, no, I mean, for this matter. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Next item of business is PB 2020-28, Fox Property Plan Development Rezoning. You're getting a workout today.
You just wait, we got new planners coming. You guys are gonna have
Oh,
some
gosh.
faces.
Oh, gosh.
Robin Baker, Senior Planner, Planning and Zoning, and I have been sworn in. The next request before you is PB 2020-28, which is what we refer to as the Fox Property Plan Development District rezoning. You've seen this request recently in the form of a land use change, so you should be a little familiar with the use as we move along. The site is located at 1411 South Wiggins Road, which is on the south side of South Wiggins Road, west of South County Line Road. It's approximately 18.57 acres. It's currently being reviewed under annexation application 2020-05 and is expected to be heard by the City Commission in February. The current future land use on the property is Hillsborough County Residential 1, which is also currently under review for City of Plant City Residential 4 and Recreation Open Space Land Use designations via PCCPA 20-07, subject to City Commission approval in February of 2021. The existing zoning on the site is Hillsborough County AS1, which is an agriculture single family that allows 1 unit per acre. The plan development is being requested in order to permit an existing recreation training facility and a single family use. So the proposed uses on site, I've enhanced the site plan for you so you can see the 2 different parcels. Parcel 1 is being requested to continue the current single family residence on site, but also have the opportunity in the future to redevelop residential uses not to exceed 4 units per acre. Parcel 2, which is the southern portion of the property, is to permit the existing private recreation training facility. The square footage of that facility is approximately 3,832 square feet. The maximum height being requested is 45 feet for the training facility and 35 feet for the single family residential. The site is proposing 1 full access along South Wiggins Road. The dirt road access currently existing on the property will have to be upgraded to city standards. The applicant will be expected to go through site plan review as soon as possible if the current applications are approved. We did send this out to our regular agencies for comment, and we did receive comment from EPC stating that wetlands exist on site and any impacts to the wetlands would need to be approved through them before development can occur. Multiple conditions requested by EPC have been added to the site plan to address the EPC's concern. I've shown here where the potential impacts to the wetlands are. They have several bridges existing today that, take them over the wetlands, but when they have to upgrade that drive to be a paved driveway, obviously they're gonna either have to do bridges or, impact those wetlands. So those will have to be approved through EPC before they can develop. They are proposing enhanced buffering along the northern border at the request of the citizen that lives there. And they're not indicating exactly what that buffering is. Staff was okay with that, just the fact that they're, going to do enhanced buffering and they're going to work it out with that particular neighbor exactly what they're going to do. Staff recommends that the rezoning from AS1 Hillsborough County Agriculture Single Family 1 District to Plan Development District be found consistent with Article 4, Division 8 of Chapter 102 of the Plant City Code of Ordinances and the Imagine 2040 Plant City Comprehensive Plan if the land use change to R4 and recreation open space with PC CPA 2007 is approved by the City Commission and be forwarded to the City Commission with a recommendation of approval. I'm here if you have any questions.
Any questions for staff?
To our knowledge, still no changes in I think last time we talked about was 1 baseball diamond, a training facility during the day, really no tournaments or anything like that, just more of a training facility, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It's essentially just permitting what's existing on site today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Just for my edification, when we say single family homes could be 35 feet height, does that imply that a 3-story home?
Generally, it's about a 2-story home when you take into consideration everything else
Oh.
that goes into it.
Okay, okay.
But that's that's our standard.
That's your standard language, yeah, right.
allowance
Yeah.
Under the PD code.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to be sure. I couldn't understand if they wanted 3-story homes here. Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present or the applicant's attorney? Yes, sir. Yeah. Works too well sometimes.
Works too well. Good morning, everybody. Colin Rice here again. Good to be with you this morning. 101 East Kennedy Boulevard, 2800 Tampa, Florida 23602. I have been sworn here on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Blaine Fox. So you've got a couple of layers of review about what we're trying to do out here, so I'll keep it brief. This is one of a three-pronged approach. It includes not just this rezoning, but an annexation and comprehensive plan amendments that all kind of hit at the same time. And then with your approval, we'll head to the planning commission hearing later on this year. We become part of the Plant City community. And just to recap, we're hoping to retain really what's there, and that's what the site plan represents. Want to keep a little bit of flexibility on the north portion of the property. Right now, there are plans to expanding uses or densities or structures. It's really just to bring it in and devote his efforts to the commercial recreational baseball facility on the southern half of the property. So with that, I'll turn it over to you for any questions. We appreciate your time and consideration.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you, Mr. Rice. Appreciate you being here today. Okay. This is the opportunity for public comment on this item, PB 2028-28, 2020-28. Is there any public comment? I'll ask a second time. Is there any public comment? Okay, that closes the public comment. Staff, anything further you wish to add? Yeah. Thank you. Any discussion by board members? This is almost feeling like an old friend, especially if you go to city commission meetings, because this one's been rumbling around for a while.
It's a good project.
I think it's a good project.
That's what he's doing, and I like that he's talked to his neighbors too.
Yeah.
He's working things out with his neighbors.
Because there was a reference to the neighbor to the north, so, I didn't even know this thing was there until I started hearing about it, but I'm delighted that it is. I think it's another facet to our community. Yeah. So I think we're all happy. Anybody want to move on this?
Make a motion.
Mr. Burris moving.
I'm making a motion to approve PB 2020-28. It's consistent with our comprehensive plan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Burris. Is there a second? I'll second that. I have Mr. Rodwell doing the second. Any discussion of the motion? Seeing no discussion, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Board Member Wood,
Yes.
Board Member Burris,
Yes.
Board Member Carr,
Yes.
Board Member Driggers,
Yes.
Board Member Thurston,
Yes.
Board Member Rodwell,
Yes.
Board Member Jones.
Yes.
Okay. Congratulations. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you for your time.
I think we just call it the Field of Dreams, so.
I'm thinking something like that. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. PB 2021-01, this is the first of this year. It's the Jack Tucker Road rezoning. And look at you. First appearance before us, I believe. Wow. Well, introduce yourselves. Yeah.
My name is Ross Einstetter. I am the.
What's that last name again?
Einstetter.
Einstetter.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Einstetter.
I'm the planner on staff for Plant City. And I have been sworn in. So the last case before you is 2021-01, rezoning of 3005 Jack Tucker Road. Parcel is approximately 28 acres, located at 3005 Jack Tucker Road, between East Sparkman Road and Jim Johnson. The existing zoning is AS1, Hillsborough County, single family. The proposed zoning would be R1, single family dwelling district. And currently, the future land use is Hillsborough County R1, and with that request, it would be R4, single family dwelling district, subject to the PC CPA 20-06 that will go to the City Commission on February 22nd of this year. So we sent out our reviewing agencies, and there were no objections except for the EPC, which noted that due to wetland which have not been delineated, approval by the EPC staff would be required prior to plat or construction plan approval. And then the surrounding roads are Hillsborough County jurisdiction. Therefore, Hillsborough County transportation staff noted that a traffic study would be required during the construction plan review phase. So staff recommends the rezoning request from AS1 to R1 single family district to be found consistent with chapter 102 Plant City Code of Ordinances and the Imagine 2040 Plant City Comprehensive Plan, subject to the approval of the CPA 20-06, approved by the City Commission, to be forwarded to the City Commission with recommendation of approval. And I'm here for any questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Okay, well, we got a few stipulations on that, it looks for sure,
Yes.
before there's got to be anything done. Is the current use agricultural or no use at all?
Yes, yes.
Right, but it's being used as a strawberry farm or
I
something?
believe so, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the staff? Okay.
This is Bonnie Carr, question, and this is kind of more procedural. With the subject to, how is that really going to work? I mean, is it going to come back here, or is it considered, before the applicant can move forward? I mean, I guess I'm not sure where that subject to gets rectified in this process.
So if the board recommends approval, then at the next City Commission meeting, this particular project will be going for the annexation, the comp plan amendment, and this rezoning.
Right. So one aspect doesn't happen, and the rest of it can't happen. The annexation, for example.
Yes.
But it's also subject to the EPC reaching, being satisfied as the wetlands issues, things like.
Right.
They have to be, that agency has to be satisfied, even though we've approved it, they have to be satisfied before.
They still have to do preliminary plat.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
go through the whole process before.
Yeah, but we won't see it again, I guess was the thrust of the question.
Right, right.
Thank you, Mr. Einstetter. You got through your first briefing. Congratulations.
I got one question.
Would you like to ask it to the applicant?
No, this is Robin, the city staff. Is this natural to try to approve one thing and then knock 3 things out later? Is that just for sense of, just time management on behalf of the city? Is this something, I don't recall us doing a lot of this in the past. So I'm just, and I obviously want to see growth and opportunity in Plant City. I'm just kind of curious why that's happening now these days.
It's a strange setup because
Yeah.
there's a lot of times where, we give these presentations to you contingent on approval by the City Commission. But anytime you hear that, that means you've already seen it. So you've already seen the future land use amendment, you've already seen the annexation for this property.
Okay.
So now it will go to the City Commission for their review because some of those processes have to be sent to the state for approval and those kind of things. So there's a longer process. So more recently, we've just been lining them up at the end. And so they go before the City Commission all on the same night.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Thank you.
Let me just interject, and also the city commission has started asking that the comp plan and the rezoning come at the same time.
Rather than piecemeal.
Rather, so that makes it a little bit more comfortable as to what's being proposed, because you can do land use of residential floors, but what's gonna go there, how many units, or do we have a plan for it, and see that plan?
Okay.
So if they put in the city, and this is better for all of us, we have a better understanding what's really going to happen. Okay, thank you.
Right, and this Bonnie Carr, still following that conversation, does this go to the commission before the subject twos are resolved, or is it being processed and all concluded before it gets to the commission?
I think it's going to go with this.
Yeah, with something
I
going
believe it's going to go to the commission. I believe it's going to go to the commission with the subject to still outstanding. Yeah.
So then it's staff responsibility to make sure that the issues are resolved and documented as I guess confirmed by the agencies that need to approve it. So that wrap up sits with the staff.
I think she's talking about the EPC comment.
Yeah.
So they have to get.
Yes.
approvals to the next phase, not.
Yeah,
every
we're not.
phase, it comes during preliminary.
But it won't come back to us again, even after the EPC renders it, correct? It will not come back to us. This is the last time we should see this. So it's going forward, subject to the EPC and the owner agreeing on what wetlands are going to be mitigated or destroyed or whatever, Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess my question is more of, when the commission gets it, are there still subject twos, or are they also in a position of pre-approving something with subject twos?
Okay, so the only subject to that you should be concerned with today is that there is an outstanding future land use amendment that has not been approved yet. So obviously, you know, this rezoning going forward, the only reason we mention it is just because as it sits today, we couldn't approve this rezoning because the future land use isn't in place. So we're giving you a recommendation based on the fact that if that gets approved by the city commission, then it would be acceptable with our comprehensive plan. And so then we can recommend approval. So what's going to happen is next month, they'll hear the land use amendment first on the same agenda. Land use amendment first, then they'll hear the rezoning. And so then the land use will be in place, rezoning will go. EPC will not be addressed at this time. It won't be addressed until preliminary plat and construction plans.
Okay,
never-
at that point, okay.
If this were a PD, I would have made them put EPC's notes on the plan saying that they can't do anything until they receive approval from EPC, but because this is a standard rezoning, we don't really do that here. So EPC will be handled by staff at a later date.
Staff at a later date.
Right.
Okay. I don't know what's left for you to say because we talked so much about it.
We did a job for you, Dad.
But would you please give us your name and address and that you've been sworn in?
6700 South Florida Avenue, Suite 4 in Lakeland, New Hampshire.
I was talking while you gave your name. Would you repeat your name?
Sarah Case.
Thank you, Ms. Case. Appreciate you being here.
So, no, I appreciate the opportunity. We did come for you through the annexation and land use process. And then I believe it was city commission that then said, because there was a case ahead of ours, that they wanted all of it to come in at the same time. That's what Rob was explaining to you.
Right.
So we are asking for straight zoning. The name of the project is Arundel Reserve, and we're proposing 90 lots. And minimum lot size of about 7,500 square feet.
How wide is the 7,500 square foot lot?
We have 60-foot and 66-foot width.
Okay, thank you.
By 125. So I'm here to answer any questions, but staff has been wonderful to work with. I've really enjoyed this opportunity. So.
Good.
Any questions you want?
Any questions?
Any
for-
inclination on what type of home will be built there? You know, I don't want to call it a starter home or an executive home or a mid-level home. Do we know what type of home we could possibly build out there?
Starter has an interesting connotation.
Yes, ma'am.
Because starter homes are in the 200,000 whereas when I got married 20 years ago, we came like 120.
I understand. Yes, ma'am.
Starter house, you know.
Right.
And this particular client, they are local home builders out of Lakeland.
Okay.
So
Great.
they have a couple different models, but they're not tract homes, they're not starter homes, but they're.
I guess the track home question I was always getting to, so they won't be track homes then. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant or applicant's attorney? Okay, thank you very much. Is there any citizen public comment on this proposal? I'll ask a second time. Any citizen public comment on this proposal? Okay, that closes public comment. Anything to add, staff? Anything further to add? Thank you, Mr. Einstetter. Any discussion by the board? Any thoughts? Any comments? Okay, what's the pleasure of the board? Will someone step forward with a motion?
Move to approve 2021-01. Meets the comprehensive plan.
Okay, that was Mr. Driggers making the motion, and I heard a second from Mr. Thurston.
I'll second it.
Well, he beat you to it. So seconds by Mr. Thurston.
Third. I can third. Yeah.
You concur. Any discussion of the motion? Madam Clerk, would you call for the vote?
Board Member Wood,
Yes.
Board Member Burris,
Yes.
Board Member Carr,
Yes.
Board Member Driggers,
Yes.
Board Member Thurston, Board Member Rodwell,
Yes.
Board Member Jones.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Case. Okay. That concludes the regular business. Is there any other business to come before
I got
the planning board?
I got a
I
comment.
think we're going to hear from Mr. Burris. Yes, sir.
And I'll try to be brief. Recently, I discovered there's 2 communities that we have all approved as a planning board. And I'll be honest, honestly, I'm nervous about what happened. We recently approved a community on Alexander and Park Road, about 100 some odd homes that was positioned to us to be 55 and up community. And 100% of those homes were bought by another outfit. So we were told, we were presented, there was going to be these homes, single family homes for 55 and up for homeowners in Plant City, not renters, homeowners. So I think it's about 120 homes. Nobody's talked about this. All 120 homes have been bought before they're even built. So we were told, the commission was told, I made an approval based off an assumption this was going to be a 55 and up community for homeowners in Plant City. Same conglomerate, I believe, bought the homes on Wilder Road, just east of the ballpark, 40 homes there. I was told, I made a vote based on the assumption that was going to be homeowners, not renters, homeownership.
So you're suggesting that this conglomerate is going to turn these into rental property?
They're designed as rentals. 100% of these 2 communities, they're supposed to be homes, single family homes. One was positioned to us at 55 and up. I'm a little bamboozled by this. I'm a little frustrated by this. And I know we can't figure this out today, but I think from my position, and we have sunshine law, so I'm not really allowed to talk to you guys unless we're here together. But I'm just wondering what we can do as a board, as a commission, because when I'm afraid of the future Plant City, we now have one entity that's going to own 160 homes, give or take. They're going to control the rent. We're going to have more of a suitcase city condensation. I'm not saying renters are bad, but from my experience, once you're a homeowner in a community, you're invested in that community. You're helping out in that community. You're not a transient. And I am shocked and quite frankly appalled that this happened. Now, I don't want to make any restrictions so that landowners and developers are pigeonholed moving forward. I think we got to be careful what we talk about, because I don't want someone to go, well, golly, Jeremy, let's not have growth, because that's not who I am. But if we think about it, for example, Popel Insurance, Florida Insurance Center, all the insurance agencies that could have insured these 200, 160 homes, that's not going to happen. The bankers in town that could have put the loans on, that's not going to happen. The homeowners that thought about maybe 55 and up, we're going to buy these homes and invest in our community, that's not going to happen. Now, we're going to have good homeowners in Plant City with these rentals? Maybe. But from my perspective, they're not going to be invested in our community. And I'm shocked that somebody could come to us and say 55 and up and then sell all 120 homes to somebody else. That's not good. And so I'm just wondering what we can do about this moving forward, because I am really nervous about this, because we've got North Park Isles and we've got Viella coming up. And I'm going to be upset, and I would think every homeowner in Plant City is going to be upset if that happens out there. And so I just want to make sure, what can we do from our perspective, and think about all the good and badness. This may be a good thing, maybe a bad thing, but like, I can't believe this happened. So I'll be quiet.
I'm trying to figure out how to follow up with this, but go ahead, Miss Julianne.
Is Ken on the line? Ken Buckman?
Yes, I'm on the line. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes, sir.
I'd be happy to talk with staff and look at this a little bit further. I wasn't familiar with the situation until you just mentioned it, but we'll be happy to look into it.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. And again, I'm not trying to stop growth in Plant City. I think obviously if somebody says they're going to build 120 homes and things need to change, I get it. But like, when we're told it's going to be home ownership, 55 and up, and now it's rentals, I'm not so sure we'd have made these same decisions as a board. I'm not so sure the commission would have made the same decisions. I'm not so sure the community would have supported it in the same way. This is 180-degree different than what was presented to us from my perspective.
So, Mr. Buckman, are you agreeing to do a little staff analysis and give us a report at the next meeting?
Be happy to do that.
Was that a yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Buckman.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to say.
That was a lot. Thank you, Mr. Bursch.
Did y'all know about this happened?
Didn't know about it.
I knew about the one that you originally referred to, but I didn't understand, I didn't connect that they may have come here and not, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Where it may have been misrepresented or, yeah, interesting.
Okay.
Because that's a unique concept. Because they're going vertical on these houses and they're rentals. It's really interesting. I've never seen anything like that before. It's across from the police station is the one.
I know where we're talking.
And the other communities by the
Okay.
And I remember, being presented these, I didn't know this, they switched to rental.
I didn't know either.
Bought out.
So this is something we need to be thinking about. And I know we live, well, this is capitalism, this is.
Free enterprise.
Free enterprises,
Yeah.
like I get all that, but when Robin does her due diligence and does her great presentation to us and then this happens, I just can't believe there wasn't sort of, hey guys, we're changing your mind. It's not gonna be 55 and up. We're gonna make them all rentals now.
Yeah, well,
You know.
it's typical that we talk about what's going to be the use of the property. That's very typical. And so perhaps we need to know that the use is going to be
Rentals.
rental. Yeah. Perhaps, I'm not making judgment, but I can see how it fits into our work here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'll be
But
real
let's-
interested
but let's
to,
have a thoughtful, go ahead, Bonnie Carr, recognized.
yeah, I'll be real interested to hear Ken's feedback because I agree, I'm surprised. I really don't have a strong opinion because I'm really just resting on our role with the comprehensive plan. And my first thought, and this obviously is without Ken's input, is as soon as Jeremy started talking about it, I started thinking through what really is our role. I understand, what the sensitivity might be, but yeah, I'll just be very curious to see, how this legally comes forward to us.
Okay. And can we place that under other business for next month's meeting then, a report? Mr. Buckman, you satisfied you could have something before us by next month? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Buckman. I'm not trying to muddy the waters.
No,
Just,
that's
you
fine,
know,
Mr. Berry. That's worth investigating.
Good point.
Any other business? I guess we don't have an absentee report. Everybody was at the last meeting, and everybody's going to be at this meeting. Anything else to come before the group? Well, declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you.